Hello everyone, and welcome to a discussion on this blog by Ankur Shiv Bhandari titled Who is Listening? And Why That Might Not Be the Point, Response versus Release. Under Ankur's thought-sharing banner, Excellence Intended. We are ASB and version. And welcome, we're really looking forward to digging into this piece today. It's quite a fascinating exploration, I think, of why we share what we share online, you know?
Absolutely. It touches on something we probably all feel. The source is, as you said, a blog post by Ankur Shiv Bhandari, just out on July 7th, 2025. And it really gives a fresh angle on what we're actually seeking when we put our thoughts out there.
Yeah, and that banner, Excellence Intended, it sort of sets the tone, doesn't it? It suggests there's real purpose behind these thoughts.
Definitely. It's not just random musing. Ankur seems to be deliberately exploring these ideas.
Okay, so let's get into it. Ankur Shiv Bhandari starts with something super relatable. He writes, every now and then, amidst a flurry of posts, conversations, and musings, I pause and wonder who is actually listening. I mean, who hasn't felt that? Right.
You hit send or you say something in a meeting, and there's that little moment of, did that land anywhere?
Exactly. And he talks about how we live in these digital amphitheaters, constantly sharing thoughts, reels, opinions.
Yeah. And there's this sort of unspoken hope, isn't there? Ankur calls it an assumption that someone, somewhere, is registering what we've said, perhaps even forming a perception about us.
And he admits, yes, sometimes they are. Sometimes people are paying attention.
But, and here's the pivot Ankur makes.
Yes, this is where, it gets really interesting for me. He asks, even if they are listening, does it really matter in the way we think it does?
Whoa, okay.
It's a great question. Because we assume listening equals understanding or impact, right? But Ankur suggests maybe that connection isn't as direct as we imagine.
The perceived impact versus the actual one might be totally different.
Precisely. Our idea of how it landed could be miles off from reality.
And to illustrate this, Ankur brings up the Truman Show. You know, Jim Carrey living in that bubble, watched 24/7.
Huh? Yeah, I remember that. Well, Ankur uses it to say, okay, maybe people are watching, but they're just dipping in and out. They're distracted, consuming rather than connecting. It's less conversation, more background noise.
It's more theater, as he puts it.
Right. Our social media feeds are just this giant, slightly chaotic reality show.
Totally. And Ankur says a lot of spaces feel now, social and otherwise, like that. People might hear the words, the sounds, but listening, truly processing.
That's a different story.
A completely different story. And even if they are trying to listen, Ankur points out, their interpretation is massively shaped by their own filters.
Oh, yeah. What mood they're in, how their day's going, whether they've had their coffee yet. That coffee one is so true.
Isn't it just, you could share the most profound thought, but if they're stressed about a deadline or just, hangry, it's not going to land the same way.
So bearing all that in mind, the distraction, the filters, Ankur asks this killer follow-up question. So when we share a thought, an idea, a bit of ourselves, how much of the impact we imagine is real?
And how much is a narrative we've built because silence feels awkward? Oof, that hits hard. Are we just filling the quiet?
It's a bit uncomfortable to think about, honestly. But then Ankur offers this release, actually. He calls it a simple but freeing realization.
Yeah. What's that?
He says, sometimes the person truly listening is the one speaking.
Okay, hang on. So you're listening to yourself.
Kind of, but in a really productive way.
Right. He explains how, for him, the actual act of articulating something, writing it down, saying it out loud, even in a coffee-fueled ramble.
I've all had those.
Haven't we just? But that process helps him refine my own thinking. It's not just about broadcasting, it's about internal processing.
So it declutters the mind.
Exactly. Ankur lists the benefits.
Yeah.
Declutter the mind, process an emotion, find humor in a challenge, or make meaning out of a moment. It's like externalizing it helps you understand it yourself.
Which leads to the core distinction Ankur makes, and this feels really important. He says, sharing isn't always about response. Sometimes it's about release.
Okay, that clicks. It's shifting the focus entirely inward. Less about the echo, more about the shout itself.
Precisely. Forget the audience reaction for a second. The act of sharing has its own value.
And that directly challenges, as Ankur Shiv Bhandari puts it, our world addicted to metrics, reactions, and applause. The likes, the views, the comments.
Oh, totally. We're all kind of chasing that little dopamine hit, aren't we?
We are. But Ankur highlights the quiet power in putting something out there simply because it matters to you, regardless of the metric.
It takes the pressure off in a way.
Huge pressure off. And he gives these affirmations, which I think are brilliant. Things like, you don't always need to be heard to find clarity.
That's interesting.
And you don't always need validation to express something valuable.
Okay, that one's huge, especially online.
Right. And finally, and you certainly don't need to perform to prove your presence. Just being you, expressing yourself is enough.
Wow, that's quite liberating, actually.
Isn't it? And Ankur wraps it up by saying, look, if someone does listen, if they connect with it, great. That's a bonus.
But if not?
If not, it still did its job. The sharing still served its purpose.
Because, and this is the beautiful part Ankur points out, because you listened, you showed up and you made space for your own voice.
It comes back to you. You gave your thought air, you processed it, you heard yourself.
And Ankur's final thought is just perfect.
It really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? About our own motivations when we, communicate anything.
Definitely. Which leads us nicely into a reflection point for you, the listener.
Yeah, maybe think about this. When you put something out there, it could be a big social media post, could be just a comment in a meeting, or even sharing something personal with a friend. What are you really looking for?
Is it truly about getting a specific reaction, getting that validation back?
Or is it maybe more about the internal feeling, that sense of clarity, or as Ankur puts it, the release that comes just from getting it out, from expressing yourself, something to ponder?
Well, thanks for listening to this deep dive on Ankur's blog. We welcome you to join Ankur's social media channels, as mentioned in the description, for other thought pieces, especially on bridging the knowing-doing gap and related discussions.
Yeah, and Ankur Shiv Bhandari explores similar themes in other posts under that excellence intended banner, like Fork It, I Miss My Spoon, about authenticity, and one called Perfectly Fine Until It Wasn't. Definitely worth checking out if this resonated.
Lots to think about there. All the best from all of us. Bye-bye.